Greetings. I am Jason John, and as you can see, we are here on the corner of Neville Jules Junction, Duke and George Street. And we are here with two fine gentlemen. We have Daryl Joseph and Mr. Dale Gulston. Greetings, I am Jason John, and today on the corner we have Mr. Daryl Joseph, a consultant psychologist. Welcome, Daryl.
Thank you very much, Manchester.
Where are we right now?
We are in the greatest steel orchestra in the land, in the world, in the universe. The home of the Massey Trinidad All Stars.
Ah, you see that with real passion. You see that with a lot of passion.
Pride. And love. Plenty love.
And so tell me, so you're a consultant psychologist. Do you have that same passion? Do you need to have that same passion and love when you're in such a field?
Absolutely. Because in any branch of psychology, especially the one that I am in, what you do and what you say touches real people and it affects lives. So you have to have passion.
Right. So you mentioned passion. I am interested to know, was your passion always in psychology, or were you like most of us growing up, where you wanted to be something, you want to be a fireman or a pilot, and then you just randomly ended up in psychology?
Yeah, boy. My first training was actually in IT, information technology. Computers, yeah. That's what I studied, because that was, well, when I came out of secondary school, that's what you could have studied. It was one of the things you could have. And I went through it, I was doing pretty well, but I wasn't happy. Mm-hmm. And it got to a point where it became a problem. And I had to figure out how I could be doing well, how I could be successful, but not happy. Mm-hmm. So I sat down with a career counselor.
That's another type of psychologist.
Different type of psychologist again.
Okay.
And they were able to guide me to sort of figure out where I had to be in order to be happy and to feel a sense of fulfillment on a daily basis.
So tell me, and now I'm interested to know, was that also one of the things that guided you to do consultant psychology?
Yeah. So I got into psychology because we figured out that I needed to be helping people in order to feel a sense of satisfaction and fulfillment. Helping people just get richer by doing work for them, it wasn't working for me.
Right.
So I had to do something where I was touching people directly, helping people improve their lives and things. And as I got into it, the company I got into, they were doing a type of work that involves working with people in the workplace. Mm-hmm. And that touched me because everybody works.
Yeah.
Right?
And we spend a lot of time at work.
Yeah. And you could get to impact a lot of people by working with people who are in the workplace. Mm-hmm. The consultant part came afterwards when I realized that there was more to it, that you could actually look at the whole group of people who working together, people in a workplace, people in a team, and that there are certain principles and certain things that you could apply to it to make it more productive, make it work better, make people be happier, lead better lives.
Okay. And you say something, and once again, this is such an interesting topic because I don't know anyone who's a consulting psychologist. It's clearly a very rare field. Mm-hmm. And I am interested to know, we often hear the term a toxic work environment. Is that a real term, or is that something we just made up along the way?
Toxic workplace is a very real thing. Mm-hmm. And it unfortunately is one of the things that, for want of a better expression, has us where we are. People very angry, people very hurt, people very upset, people very easily irritated, easily irritable, people flying off the handle quickly, all of those things. And I'm not saying that the workplace is the sole cause of it, but I mean, let's try and apply some common sense to the situation. If I'm up for 16 hours a day, and I spend 8 to 9 of those hours in one place, and I'm not happy, chances are where I'm spending most of my time has something to do with my unhappiness. Yeah. Right?
And in terms of society, I guess you can tell me from a psychologist's point of view, from that scientific point of view, in society now we see a lot of people, a bit, the level of aggression, the temper, we have a shorter fuse.
Yeah.
is that directly related, or can that be directly related to a toxic work environment?
Yeah, I believe it is. Now in psychology, we try to prove things not by opinion and not by saying it enough times that people just listen to you. We try to prove things by doing research and by getting the numbers behind it. All right? So this is our ongoing area of research. But when you look at what has been looked at worldwide, because we're a little lagging behind in the Caribbean, the evidence is overwhelming that what happens inside of there has a deep impact on people's psyche, a deep impact on how they feel, a deep impact on how they relate to others, how they relate to their families, their friends, other strangers. And we see in these two islands here, the impact of this on people on a day-to-day basis. You just need to jump in your car and drive to the corner. You get about 10 bar drive along the way.
Yeah, we know with bar drive these days, people on edge.
People on edge.
And as you said, that is directly tied to the workplace. And so how do we now make that shift, that transition from a toxic work environment to, I don't know, what is the opposite? What do you all call the opposite of a toxic work environment?
A healthy workplace.
So we go with health. I thought you all had some fancy term, it's all psychologists, the big qualifications, and we just generally think that you all have a big word for it, a fancy term. But how do we jump, or how do we introduce, or even introduce more of this healthy work environment to the wider society?
Right. So I'll say two things about that. One, leadership has a lot to do with it, and style of leadership. That's one. All right. Two, we gotta understand what toxic workplace environment actually means and how it impacts people. So there's there's a wide range of things that would be considered toxic within a workplace, but I'll just pick a couple to demonstrate an example. All right. A workplace where people feel like they're being treated unfairly, like the manager or the boss is siding with people who agree with them more and sidelining people who disagree. A person who goes into a situation daily feeling like if they have lost, they're going to get advantage before they even start doing anything for the day.
Right.
They're coming in with a certain amount of tension, and they're coming in with a certain amount of resentment. And that resentment and that tension will play itself out in the way that they talk to people, the way that they treat people. And all of us, as a little child, I used to stack up dominoes in a pattern and then tip one and watch the dominoes like a snake.
I think we all did that. We all did that.
Yeah, that's a nice thing to do as a little child.
Yeah, it's fun.
When you have one person in a workplace who is resentful and angry and disruptive, they become like the first domino in that stack.
To cripple everything.
And what they do spreads to everybody else around them.
Wow.
And then it leaves the workplace and it goes with them to the grocery, to the bank, and ultimately at home.
Yes. So tell me, Daryl, let's just say, for example, I am that employee.
Yeah.
How do I demand change? How do I start this change?
Right.
Even if, let's say, for example, I have the leadership problems, I have the managerial problems, I have the co-worker problems, and it's toxic to me. How do I take myself, not outside of the situation because I need to work, but how do I influence myself to be positive then?
All right, so let me put a different spin on it. It should actually be the responsibility of the employer, the leader, to effect this kind of change.
Okay.
All right? Because quite frankly, the employee can't do it. It's like asking a child to parent the adult. All right? The child could not like what the adult is doing, but they can't actually, in most circumstances that we know of. All right? So it is actually for the employer to realize that there's actually good business reason why you should create a healthy workplace.
Yeah, because when employees are happy, they work better, more efficiently,
longer, more efficiently,
and
they work
just
harder,
generally
with more pride.
Engagement of customers, the customer base, you have a better service.
Exactly, right? When you get people to work with pride.
Yes.
Right? When they get people to work with, like, they want this product or this service to work really well, and they want customers to be happy, and they want people around them to be satisfied with the work they do, you have a winning product.
So Daryl would have just told us about the employee-employer relation in terms of the workplace, a toxic environment, and how to create a healthy, and why we should create healthy work environments for employees. But now I want to shift the focus from employee and the workplace to something like what we're in a panyard.
Yeah.
And we know a steel orchestra consists of 120 more. 120 plus players,
plus,
all working toward a common goal. So is this the part where you're gonna give me a small tour at the panyard, that we're gonna talk a little bit about pan and how groups can help persons mentally or psychologically overcome specific challenges and work toward a common goal?
You have to get up.
All right, because we're in the best panyard in Duke Street or Trinidad and Tobago. Are we this is the best panyard in where? The world?
It's when you have two ways to get out. Eh?
Right. Oh, should that be it?
Be careful.
Right, yeah. As Daryl would have told us, we are here in Trinidad All-Star Steel Orchestra Panyard. And I mean, we can see work is going on in the background. And the sense of camaraderie here, I think, plays a heavy role on the psychology of persons. And I've always been interested to know, when you look at steel pan, you look at football, you look at choir, you look at any collective group going toward a common goal. How does that impact the psychology of the individual, and how does that drive the person? I wanna be successful, I want to accomplish this goal together.
Yeah. Human beings are social animals, right? Human beings do exist well in isolation. That's why the worst form of jail is solitary.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
We need to feel a part of something bigger than ourselves, and we need to accomplish things and find meaning through being a part of something bigger than ourselves.
Right.
Something like a steel band is about life. The lessons you learn inside of a place like a panyard, you cannot learn in a book.
Right.
You learn about success, you learn about failure, you learn about handling failure, especially if it's something competitive. You learn about dealing with people. You learn about different kinds of people. The ability to tolerate people that you would want to strangle. But you gotta get along with them, right?
Yeah.
You learn these important life lessons in a group like a steel band. So it is something that I encourage any parent. Get your child involved in some group. It doesn't have to be pan. Pan is my thing. It doesn't have to be pan. But get your child involved in some group activities from an early age, because you're going to set them up to do better in life.
Right. It helps with like managing, I guess, conflict, and helps with negotiation, helps with friendship, helps build that discipline. As we can see, discipline, dedication, magnificent. It helps build that in a person.
Yes.
And I mean, how do you suggest, because you spoke about failure, you spoke about accomplishment, but you also spoke about failure.
Yeah.
And we all know how to accomplish. We all know how to be happy and how to enjoy the good things.
Yeah.
But we don't really know how to cope with failure well.
Yeah.
How long, if I may ask, how long have you been involved with the Trinidad All-Star Steel Orchestra?
You want to expose my age, boy?
Well, I tried.
All right, I have been with this orchestra since 1989.
Wow.
So you count however many years I stopped counting.
I'll count. And you know, so you've been here so long.
Yeah.
And I know you would have seen it before the psychology education that you have.
Before,
and now you see it through that lens.
Yes.
What would you say to children, I guess, or to parents who have children, when you're dealing with failure or helping children cope with failure? We know sometimes a steel orchestra, a football side, a choir, you enter a competition and you may not always win.
Yeah.
How do you guide persons to cope better with failures?
Yeah. Look, in any competitive endeavor, the reality is you're going to fail more than you succeed.
Right.
Even Renegades.
For the record, I play pan with Renegades Steel Orchestra. That is where the Renegades reference came in.
But it's love, it's love.
We tied. We both shared we both shared the championship last year.
Yeah.
I don't know about this year.
Yeah.
But that's okay.
Yeah. We'll see. We'll leave that right there. All right.
And the panyard is what we call the great equalizer, where everyone, regardless of your color, your creed, your race, your age, your gender, what you have accomplished in life, all of that, you start on zero here. We are all on the same playing field.
Yeah.
And that is the beauty of this structure and what it represents.
Yeah.
So, we are here and we look at it, as you say, as the great equalizer. And sometimes the teacher becomes the student. And that is really interesting because when you have a community that is so diverse in such a small space, we really learn how to work with one another. We learn how to accept persons for their personal preferences and their choices. And we learn to respect each other. And I think that is key. And is that a correct representation of what the panyard does for persons?
Look, when you're walking here, nobody wants to know what kind of car you're driving, where you was, who you spoke to today, what you're doing tomorrow. The only thing people want to know is, you have your music?
And the thing about it is, the best player could get the music from the newest player.
Right. You get the part from last night, that is all people are interested in, and whether you could execute it.
Right.
So this space, it brings a sort of leveling of everybody who comes inside of it. It's either you're on board and you're getting the job done along with everybody else, or you're somewhere else on the outside.
Right.
What you do outside, what kind of clothes you wear, what kind of shoe you put on, secondary.
Right.
It's how well you could do the work of the group. That is what counts.
And when we look at forging relationships and forging friendships, is there any one person you could think of that embodies that forge a friendship that lasts a lifetime? And it taught me so much that you got here right here in All Stars.
We have a gentleman walking towards here right now. Some people might know him. If you don't know him, you're supposed to know him. This gentleman here, I consider my brother. We have been friends, we have been buddies, we cry together, we laugh together, we win together, we lose together for decades now. And it is my pleasure to introduce you to my brother, Mr. Dane Gulston.
It was a pleasure and honor, pleasure. Now. Anytime when it comes to, dealing with Trinidad All-Stars and Daryl, boy, to be honest with you, I just say thank you. Thanking you for allowing me to be a friend.
Oh, man.
But, to be honest with you, we both don't take this lightly.
No. Right.
And he writes, we cry together in different ways. Sometimes you cry out with tears. We cry together you cry out in different ways. Things right or wrong. You cry out with tears. It's wrong. You cry out. Well, yes. If things right or wrong. He did right. He did well. Or we tried. Oh yes.
Steel pan extraordinaire. We all know you for your showmanship. But we were saying something just now before you came when we were looking at the steel pan. The panyard is a great equalizer, where the best player is able to learn from the newest player. And is that something where I am correct by? Is that a correct statement, a true statement?
Oh yeah, definitely. This institution stands for inclusion.
Right.
You know what I mean? When you hear, especially for Panorama, it's one tenor, as much as we will have 35 tenors or double seconds. You have a number of double seconds, a number of double tenors. But what I'm saying is, we try to make sure that it's one. So I, sometime during the course of the rehearsal, because of my extensive performance periods at times, I may come into the band and I may see a youth, and he might be skillful enough, and I go and ask him, has somebody just only learned yesterday or an hour ago, whatever? It says, come and show me. It have nothing to do with if he better than or if it, no. We really don't try to instill or show that in the band, and then that goes in any section, you know what I mean? And so I know I'm a role model, and I'll always try to show that at times that discipline, you know what I mean? And I use the word at times because it's at the time where you have to also show, what's up? We had to be serious. We had to be real, you know what I mean? So you might get rowdy, and it may come across in a way, a little indisciplined, right? But it doesn't really mean that they're indisciplined. You know what I mean? It really shows that you're concerned and you're using some of, if you want to call the experience, and a little bit of a weight.
Yeah.
So
But that could be considered like the panyard, that could be the dynamics in the panyard. So that's the emotions and the dynamics in the panyard. So I think the panyard, as you all would have said, is something that could help me as the employee, because we spoke about it earlier. What can the employee do if they are under this immense pressure and the employer is not taking care of them? They can come to a space such as this, and you know, I don't want to use the word vent, but they could get a different perspective on life, and they could get guidance and they could get help. And I think that is one of the major takeaways from the second half of our conversation today here at the Panyard, where we learned that yes, we are dealing with certain troubles mentally, but here is a space where we could interact with so many people. And I would like to say this is a space where it is so unique that I don't think there is any other place like a Panyard where everyone is on one scale. Everyone is on one scale. The inclusion here is so amazing that you are not asking me what type of car I'm driving, if I'm playing a shiny new pan or a rusty pan, once it sounds good. And my thing is just feeling the environment and feeling the atmosphere and understanding what these two magnificent gentlemen would have told us about the Panyard being such an inclusive space where I could deal with all my troubles right here, because it's a support system. It's a system where if my family is in hardship, they are here to support. And with persons such as these gentlemen here, it's no wonder why you all consider Trinidad All-Stars one of the most magnificent bands in Trinidad and Tobago. And it is no surprise to me that you all have these words here: love, magnificence. You know, it really does embody the Seal Orchestra. And I hope that people learn and people appreciate this a little more, and we also appreciate some of the pressures we get in work a little more, and we learn how to deal with that, we learn how to navigate that, so that we can make Trinidad and Tobago a better place.